This video is dedicated to the most common interview questions and answers. A lot of you guys got amazing results in the comments on my situational interview questions and answers video, even landing six-figure jobs, which is beyond amazing. So I want to get more of you guys into the jobs that you want with the salaries you want and help you nail your interviews as well. So in this video, I'll be sharing 22 killer interview questions and answers to the most common interview questions that candidates get stuck on. And I'll let you know what to avoid. I'm Amri Celeste, an interview coach and HR recruitment specialist with over 11 years hiring experience. I cover tough interview questions and answers on this channel. In this video, I'll also show you how some of these answers fit into the STAR interview method, also known as the STAR interview technique. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a video. So what is the STAR method? For those of you that don't know what the STAR method is, it's a structured framework that you can use to answer interview questions easily while giving a solid example to the interviewer in a story format. And the interviewer will sometimes assess your answers against the STAR method. So basically it ensures that your answer is rounded and it includes a situation where they can visualize you demonstrating the skill that they're asking you about. If you were using the STAR interview method in your answer, you would describe a scenario or a situation, the associated task, the actions you took, and the ultimate result. And that is what STAR stands for: situation, task, action, result. So I'll be sharing some STAR method examples in this video. I don't recommend using the STAR method to answer every question, but we'll cover the relevant ones in this video. And I also have videos completely dedicated to the STAR technique, so check those out if you want a more in-depth explanation or example answers. So question one is, tell me about yourself. An example answer is, I really enjoy building connections with people over time, and I'm quite social in my personal life, and that's always been reflected in my career choices. I've been working as a customer service rep for 5 years, and I've enjoyed the whole time. I've had some really great interactions, I've met some wonderful people, and I've learned a lot about how to manage difficult situations. I also learned how to really listen, show empathy and understanding. And now I feel like I'm ready to take the next step in my career into a customer services team leader position and take on management responsibility, which is why I applied for this role. I feel like the skills I've gained, as well as my successes, could add significant value in this role. For example, I've won an award for Best Complaints Handler. It's a quarterly award and I've won it 7 times in the last 5 years because I've become really skilled at picking up and resolving complex queries and complaints. So much so that now I coach junior members of the team on how to resolve these queries. So with this answer, I've linked various aspects of skills and personality with career choices in order to give a personal summary. So even with the achievement here, I've tied in the skill you gained in discovering your ability to resolve complex queries and complaints with the fact that you won an award. So in your own answer, if you can include a small win, that really helps. So I've answered this question before on my channel in this video, which is dedicated solely to the question, tell me about yourself. I'll link that in the description box below this video, and then you'll have a strong alternative example answer that you can use. Now, when you're answering this question, you really want to intertwine your soft skills and preferences and personality with what's required in the role. There's a reason why the question isn't what's your relevant experience. It's open, it's vague, and that's because they also want to know about you. But it doesn't mean that you go off on a tangent about your childhood and your favorite food. If you keep it relevant and highly tied into the role, the company, the duties, the essential and desirable skills, which are all on the job description, by the way, along with anything that you learned in earlier interview stages, whether about the role or the interviewer themselves, then you will absolutely nail this question. So I hope that you found that answer helpful. So the next question is, why should we hire you? So one thing to avoid when answering this question, which I hear regularly, is a candidate will list soft skills with no context or backup. So, for example, I'm really organized, I'm trustworthy, dependable, honest, kind. This is just reeling off a list of words and traits that are completely subjective. They are your own opinion, and the interviewer has no way to know whether it's true or not. So if you add context such as I'm organized, which really helps in my current role as a manager or a receptionist, with a one-liner example of why, it helps to give context as to why you're organized and how that could add value and draw the interviewer to the conclusion that they should hire you. So another example using organization as a skill is I'm super organized. I managed a large scale complex project that had many moving parts for 6 months. And I was able to close the project early because I organized extensively, which allowed me to manage the project efficiently. Or, for example, as a PA, I manage multiple calendars, which I really enjoy because I'm naturally organized. So let me put that PA example into a full example answer to the question, why should we hire you? I think you should hire me because I have a combination of really solid skills that I believe would add significant value in a role like this. You mentioned that you're looking for someone who's naturally organized. As you can see from my work history, I've been a PA for 4 years across 2 different jobs. I gravitate towards these jobs because I'm naturally organized. As a PA, I manage multiple calendars for very senior people, which allows me to utilize my organization skills on a day-to-day basis. I'm also very organized in my personal life. I use spreadsheets to manage my finances and apps to manage my time. In addition to this, I thoroughly enjoy building new relationships, which is a regular requirement of my current role. I'm regularly exposed to a variety of senior contacts internally and externally, which I noticed on the job description was another requirement of the role. Someone who's a natural communicator and can communicate with senior level management and enjoys building new relationships. Now, here's a curveball question for you. How would you answer, why shouldn't we hire you? It's a difficult question, but it comes up. Don't get caught out with this. I have a solid example answer to that question in this video, so check it out before your interview. I'll link that in the description box below this video. Now, if you're getting value from this video so far, then like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. It's a massive help to the channel. It shows the pesky YouTube algorithm that this video is useful, and it will then show up for more people. And I would be especially appreciative of your support. And there are other ways that you can support the channel in the description box below this video. Question 3 is what motivates you? An example answer to this is, as a salesperson, what motivates me are the regular challenges set by the nature of the job and the sense of fulfillment that I get from closing each sale, surpassing my targets, and having the opportunity to use and grow my negotiation and persuasion skills. For example, I worked on quite a difficult sale that took longer to achieve than I planned, but I persevered because I knew the payoff for myself and for the company would be worth the sale, and so would the sense of achievement and recognition. So I pushed through for weeks and continued on because I was motivated by the challenge and the journey. This is a short, direct answer that is strong because it addresses your personal motivations that link directly to the job. So this example answer centers more on the emotional link and the sense of personal achievement that you get from the job and why. It also links to how it allows you to continuously hone your skills in that profession. Now, although this example answer does not technically fit the STAR method, it doesn't include a result or a comprehensive example. It's still a good mini example to back up the why in your answer, why that specific thing motivated you and why that is important. Because when you address the why in your answer, it builds up the interviewer's awareness and understanding of your character, and it creates authenticity. This is a particularly strong answer because it demonstrates your character traits that are typically aligned with those skills that are generally required in sales. So it basically shows how your motivations make you a perfect fit. But it could apply to any profession. So for example, for customer service role, it could be the ability to connect with people and solve problems, because you might enjoy connecting with people and are considered a problem solver in your personal life. And then go on to give an example of problem solving. Question 4 is, what are your salary expectations? A really popular question. So I addressed this question in more detail in this video, but in short, my advice maybe slightly differs to what you've heard previously because I don't really offer fancy tactics to sidestep this question or advise that you preface your answer with your valuable skills. The reason for this is that I coach my clients to discuss salary prior to the interview. So even if your interviewer were to ask again in a formal interview setting, it's a confirmation of what you've already discussed prior. And this can be a salary range or a specific middle number. And then you could add on that it depends on the final package. For example, a package with minimal holidays, no private medical care, no car allowance, etc., may mean that you would then expect a higher salary. But again, don't waste your time going to an interview with a company that won't disclose salary, or at least a ballpark figure or salary range beforehand. So if you have any questions on that, then just watch this video right here. It answers all the questions and goes into a lot more detail, or you can ask me your questions in the comments. I'm super active in the comments if you need any help or have any questions. So question 5 is, what are your greatest strengths? So your interviewer might also ask you, what are your biggest strengths? A slight variation on this question. I answer that version in this free guide, which covers the top 20 interview answers, including answers to questions like, what's your greatest weakness, which I've also covered here, and how do you handle pressure at work? And you can get that for free in the description box below this video. So an example answer using the STAR method is, I believe that my greatest strengths are that I work well under pressure and I plan and coordinate well. For example, as an event manager at my previous organization, we had our quarterly conference call. Members of the management team were due to speak in front of analysts and potential investors. However, one of the team members called in sick 2 hours before the start of the event. I needed to make sure that the event went smoothly and that the reputation of our organization was maintained. I reverted to the original plan I put together and noticed that I could allocate more time to each speaker and have them engage with the audience in a Q&A session, which I originally removed from my plan due to lack of time. I gathered all the speakers and shared the situation and my solution, and they immediately agreed. All right, so you may have noticed that this answer did fit the STAR method that I mentioned earlier. So you said your strengths were working well under pressure and being organized, and then you did one of the best things that you can do in an interview, back up your answer with an example where you can. So here, the situation was that one manager called in sick before this speech. The task is to reorganize so that it goes smoothly. The action is to change the original plan, and the result was that a contract was signed with an investor and the event went smoothly. So here you've given 2 strengths and they support each other, which is really helpful if you can include related strengths in your answer. So here, the fact that you've planned well has helped you to work calmly under pressure to come up with a quick solution. So in your own answer to this question, if you can use an example that shows how your strength pulled you through a difficult situation, then that will take your answer up to the next level beyond just saying something like, my strength is that I have integrity. If integrity were your strength, you could use an example where a really senior member of staff, like a director, asked you to do something that would test your integrity and then demonstrate how you handled that. So question 6 is, what are you passionate about? This is a really specific question designed to probe your personality and find out what you enjoy and what your passions are. So the interviewer often wants to hear one of 2 things. They either want to get to know you and your hobbies and interests, like I enjoy working with animals, I'm passionate about the environment, I love baking, singing, etc. These are just examples, by the way, not actual passions, although I do enjoy baking. Or the interviewer wants you to link your passion to something aligned with the role, the company, the team, the interviewer. So this second option is often the safest bet, and you can talk about personal passions, but there's always a risk of oversharing or sharing something very political or controversial that could be off-putting to your interviewer. And my job is to get you a job offer, not a new friend in your interview. So an example answer is, I am passionate about the environment. I love getting involved in activities that allow me to play my part in protecting our environment. I could certainly do more, but I enjoy in my spare time volunteering. I'm part of a wildlife rescue program, and I also grow a community garden where people get together and plant fruits, veggies, and herbs. It's one of the things that attracted me to this company, its commitment to reduce emissions and tackle climate change. I was excited at the prospect of working somewhere where I might be able to get involved in something I'm passionate about personally. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to interview. Question 7 is, why are you leaving your current job? There will be something in the role you're interviewing for that is different to your current or most recent role. So it's easiest to focus on the differences when you're answering this, but don't dwell on the negatives. So a few of the common reasons for leaving a job are opportunities to move up or progress, more responsibility, more requirement for flexibility due to personal changes like family commitments, unsuitable location, wanting a role more aligned with passions or personal values, higher salary, but only share this alongside another reason. Never share salary as the only reason, because to be honest, there should be more than just money or you'll regularly be moving jobs. So an example answer, and I'm going to focus on the unsuitable location here, is after COVID, restrictions were lifted and my current employer required us back in the office full time, and my journey is 3 hours. Now, I've always loved what I do, which is why I stick with the long commute for 3 years. But now I've decided that I would like more of a work-life balance. And after starting my search, I noticed your company is focused on employee well-being and backs that up by supporting hybrid working. That was really important to me, but I also wanted a role with more complexity that was more rewarding. And looking at the projects and processes involved in this role, I'm confident that this is the type of role that would give me that challenge. So the strongest part of this answer here is where it covers why you were initially prompted to look at the job market, but then it moves into other motivations as you went on that journey. And that's really important. Work-life balance was almost a new age thing not too long ago, but since COVID and the Great Resignation, it's now a valid reason for wanting to leave. It also shows you've done your digging and research, because here, you've referenced employee well-being and you noticed that they champion well-being, which you can only know from researching their online brand or, looking at their website and understanding their values, their pledges, their areas of focus as a company. So you're demonstrating that you've done your research here. Now, one last thing with this answer is that it doesn't just focus on one reason. It also demonstrates that there's a genuine interest in the role, not just the fact that you can work from home sometimes. It also references projects and processes as part of a point of interest due to the desire for more complexity in the role. So question 8 is, how do you handle stress? So an example answer to this question using the STAR method is, in my previous role, I was working on a project for a client and they moved the deadline forward due to changes outside of their control. I was already working on another project and this change gave both projects the same deadline. This was an immense amount of pressure, and I realized that my team and I had very limited time to meet this demand while also making sure our daily business was not affected by this sudden workload. In order to make sure the quality of work for the client was not affected, I implemented a new workflow for my team based around critical tasks only. I assigned different tasks to different members of the team and made sure to check in with each of them every day. In addition, I took on some of the work myself to make sure that everything would be done on time. I managed to finish both projects on time and our clients were very satisfied with the work. One of them even signed a huge contract for future projects. When your interviewer asks you how you handle stress, they are looking for examples of specific situations where you coped well under pressure. I highly recommend using the STAR method to answer this question. This gives the interviewer an example to visualize you in a high-pressured situation. So here, the situation is the unexpected early deadline, and the task is to meet both deadlines without affecting the quality of the work. The new workflow and taking on more work yourself was the action, and the result was that the deadlines were met. Some of the other things demonstrated in this answer include your ability to understand and utilize workflows, your understanding of the importance of delegating and managing stress for others as well as yourself. In this example, you've asked the team to focus on critical tasks only and stripped out anything time-consuming to make sure that they meet their deadline, but don't burn out. So you've also demonstrated your willingness to roll up your own sleeves and work hard, as in this example, you took on some of the work yourself. The next question is, why do you want to work for this company? So an example answer is, I noticed this company has a focus on well-being and the growth of its employees. When I was doing my research before this interview, I noticed on many LinkedIn profiles that there are a lot of internal moves and promotions, which indicates that people tend to stay for a long time because opportunities are created for the staff that work here and they're rewarded for staying. As I was in my previous role for 4 years, without the opportunity to grow, I was so pleased to see that. I also noticed from multiple sources that your company has a focus on community efforts and volunteering. Giving back and volunteering are some of my personal integral values, and I felt very connected to that purpose. In addition to recent growth and success, I would love to work for a company that holds all of those values and accomplishments. So a similar question is, what attracted you to our company? Very similar question. I cover what attracted you to our company in the free guide that I mentioned earlier. If you want a couple of examples under your belt, then check out that guide. So we didn't use the STAR method for this. Hopefully you're seeing the pattern now and the types of questions where it might be better not to use the STAR method in your answer. So the thing I love about this answer that I also highly recommend you include when answering this question is it references research. So it references aspects of the company culture and focus areas like community work that you can only discover through digging around and doing research prior to your interview, which I mentioned in another example answer. So it even states here, the thing I noticed from multiple sources, which shows that you've done your research because you really care about getting the job. I can't tell you how many managers are disappointed when they ask a candidate, why do you want to work for this company? Or what do you know about this company? And the answer is just template. It lacks interest, it lacks passion, and they clearly haven't even looked up the company website or anything before the interview. And this has happened, in my experience, in senior roles as well. The interview will end and then the manager will just turn to me and say, no, that candidate just didn't do their digging. So that's really important to some managers and some interviewers. So just bear that in mind. So make sure you do your company research. This answer also strikes at the heart of what's important to the company and how they present themselves to staff. They focus on staff retention and creating internal opportunities. In your own answer, anything that links in with your personal motivations, your future preferences, and how your personal values link in with those of the company are absolute gold. It shows the interviewer that you've done your research and also that you're looking for more than just a job. You are more likely to stay longer in the company because you feel that that company connects with you personally. Question 10 is, do you have any questions for me? So often your interviewer will ask you this at the end of your interview, and here's my advice. Always ask questions. It shows your interest, your enthusiasm, and it opens up opportunities to increase your chances of getting an offer by building connection and relationship with your interviewer. But also some interviewers and hiring managers expect questions and they'll mark candidates down if they don't ask questions. They're not all like this, but best not to take the risk. So the types of questions that you should ask should be from any of these categories. 1 or 2 explorative questions about the interviewer. These are questions like, can you tell me a bit about you and your journey and what made you want to join this company and what's kept you here? Or questions like, what's your favorite thing about working here? And what's the most challenging thing about working here? People generally really enjoy speaking about themselves. It's a topic that they know well and are very passionate about. So questions like this give them an opportunity to do that. And it shows that you're interested in them, which is great if they're the hiring manager who you might be working with. It also builds up emotional connection, and it's great because you get to know them. There may be something they say that or share that helps you to decide whether or not this is the kind of manager that you would want to work with. Another type of question you can ask is a question related to the job or company, which shows that you've done your research and want to know more. This builds up the impression that you genuinely have an interest in that role or company, which you should if you decided to attend an interview there. If it's about the job, then you can take specific areas of the job description and then ask them to expand on that. So let's take this example job description I created. We could take this area, arranging travel, and ask, I noticed as part of the job description, I would be arranging travel. Can you tell me a little more about this? Would this mean that I would be supporting senior members of the team or directors in the company, or any other area of the job? We're now at question 11. If you haven't liked and subscribed, feel free to go ahead and do that, and let me know any questions that you have in the comments. Question 11 is, what can you bring to the company? When answering this question, you can use a similar answer to the question, why should we hire you? Which was question 2 earlier in this video. So I'll structure this example answer in a similar way, but use a different example. The main difference in this question to why should we hire you is it's focused specifically on what you can bring skills-wise, as well as your personality. So an example answer is, I believe there are multiple ways I could add value in this company. As an office manager and a generalist in my career, I've often been given a wide range of responsibilities on a regular basis, from managing finance processes for office orders such as purchase orders and invoices, to being involved in system updates, organizing company events, and being involved in hiring processes. Being a generalist has been immensely helpful in building up my ability to adapt to new processes, and based on your company expansion plans, I think my willingness to get involved in new projects and learn a range of new skills would be a big advantage. I'm also bilingual. I speak both English and Spanish at a fluent business level, and I noticed that you have offices in Spain, so I could communicate with colleagues there. Now, this answer explains the benefit of your skill set. So if you're a generalist in any field, that often means that you wouldn't specialize in a particular skill set, but you would know a little about a wide range of duties. This answer includes the why this would be beneficial to the company, plus it includes examples such as exposure to finance, exposure to recruitment, process, and things like events and organizing. So these all require very different skill sets. So instead of just saying I have a wide range, it gives a few examples to demonstrate what the wide range is. This answer then goes on to talk about soft skills developed as a result and how that's beneficial to the company, not generally, but specifically. In this case, it ties into expansion plans, which shows that you've either done research before your interview, or you were just paying attention when the interviewer spoke about the company's expansion plans, either in your interview or in earlier interview stages. And then at the end, being bilingual as an extra, but that's not a random personal skill, that's also tied in with something relevant that you discovered while you were doing your research. It's something relevant to the company. The fact that they have offices in another country, which would allow you to communicate with those colleagues in a fluid and easy way. Now, in your own answer, I recommend choosing 2 or 3 things minimum that you think could bring value and include a soft skill. These are skills which can apply to multiple professions, as opposed to something specific like systems experience, and they're also highly subjective, which sometimes makes them a little more challenging to demonstrate in an interview, such as being organized or great communication skills. I do plan to do a separate video on soft skills and hard skills to clearly define that difference. So I will do that, and I'll link it here in the description below when it's ready. So the next question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So an example answer to this is, although I can't gauge 5 years specifically, I definitely see myself creating a strong foundation in my career over the next 5 years. So if I were to get this job as an HR assistant, I would want to gain all the skills necessary to move up in my career over time, and perhaps one day be a senior member of HR with management responsibilities, for example, leadership skills, and an understanding of the strategic side of HR, or even HR partnering would be a huge help in my career. So here, of course, we haven't used the STAR method because it just wouldn't apply with an explorative question like this about your career trajectory. But this answer is structured in a way that addresses the journey of building up a strong foundation in your career. If you're not at a senior level, some of the examples that you could use in your own answer would be things like getting qualified, being coached by senior team members, gaining specialist skill sets, learning specific systems or technical processes that are commonly associated with the more senior roles. And the good thing about this answer is it gives a couple of examples related to the field of the job. So in this case, it's related to HR and the skills associated with moving up. So leadership is an example of one of those skills. And this answer also shows that you have an understanding that you're in a place where you still need to grow in order to consider moving up. And that shows an immense amount of maturity. The next question is, what are your career aspirations? So similar to the last question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But this has no time limit and is more of an idealistic question. It allows you to elaborate. An example answer is, my aspiration pretty much ties in very closely with why I applied here. Really, I want to look back on my career and feel proud of what I've contributed along the way. And I noticed in this role that the successful candidate would have an opportunity to get involved in projects and initiatives as a standard part of the role. As you can see from my degree, my courses and experience up to this point, I have a consistent interest in engineering, and I'd like to grow this field and see which direction it takes me in. I think I'd be happy in a role like this because based on what you said, you're looking for someone who has the ability to split their time between multiple pieces of work. And I noticed on the job description that I would get a chance to be involved in some really exciting projects. I can definitely say that I aspire to work in a role where I have an opportunity to add value by getting exposure to these types of projects. So my first point here, I just want to mention the degree. I don't always include degrees in my example answers because it's not a requirement to pass most interviews. This is just a part of this example, but you can change degree to experience, volunteer work, or anything else. So often people think that when they answer this question, they need to share a specific job title that they see themselves in, or say that they want to move up in the company, even if they're not sure what they want or they don't want to move up at all. So if the role you're interviewing for is looking for someone ambitious, there are often key clues in the job description or in earlier interviews. But if that's not a requirement, you can also talk about skills that you aspire to gain or areas that you might like to work in, or in this example, projects you aspire to be exposed to in your career as part of your career aspirations. One last thing about this answer that is really strong is that it references previous research, which shows that you've done your research and you care about getting the job. The next question is, tell me about a time you made a mistake. Now, I share a really strong alternative example answer in my situational questions and answers video, so I'll link that in the description below this video. I highly recommend that you check that video out. An example answer to this question is, when I started my current role as a customer service rep, I was responsible for inputting orders into our system. One day, I accidentally entered the wrong information, and as a result, one of our clients called in as they ended up with the wrong product. I apologized and took responsibility for the mistake. I explained that it had been my error, but I would get it fixed straight away. I told my manager what had happened, and we were able to send out a replacement on next day delivery and a small freebie as a gesture for the error. I called the customer the next day to check that they had received the correct item. They had, and they were happy with the outcome. After this, I thought about what measures I could take to prevent similar mistakes in future. I learned that I need to make sure I take regular breaks to keep my concentration sharp and double check each order before submitting it. Now, everyone makes mistakes, so when you answer this, do not say that you don't make any mistakes or you can't remember any. This question is on the list because it's one of the most common, so you should be prepared for it. Now, this is a question where I highly recommend using the STAR method in your answer. This question is designed to see how you handle stressful situations or errors, what your approach is, and how you minimize future mistakes. And the STAR method will help you structure that in your answer. Now, you may have noticed the L here. This stands for learning or lesson. Add this on to supercharge your answer. It shows necessary self-reflection in order to minimize future mistakes. So some examples for your own answer. A mistake could be something you forgot to do or did incorrectly. It could be a time where you overpromised and you weren't able to deliver. Make sure it's not something colossal though, like your mistake caused a company collapse. Don't use something like that, just something that you addressed and rectified. Question 15 is, what do you consider to be your weaknesses? An example answer is, I believe my direct nature has allowed me to succeed and get things done efficiently as a manager and a colleague. When I share feedback with my colleagues, I try to be honest and offer constructive criticism. However, I recognize that the directness of my feedback doesn't always serve my team or my colleagues well. I realized that some team members felt I was being more critical than constructive, which was not my intention. So to overcome this, I took an online leadership management course to soften and broaden my communication skills so I could develop more effective relationships with my team. I'm continuing to apply everything that I learned, and last week a colleague came to thank me for some feedback on a recent presentation. He said my comments proved really valuable and he really appreciated the feedback. So we've used the STAR technique here. The situation is that your communication style is too direct. The task is to build a style that's more constructive than critical. The actions are the course you took and the result is an immediate positive feedback on recent communication from a colleague. So here you're showing your self-awareness, you recognize the impact of your own communication style on others. You're also demonstrating that you have the maturity to recognize that you may need to adapt or change. You're comfortable with seeking outside help to do this. You're not trying to self-help. You're attending a course run by experienced professionals. And what's really strong here is you're showing at the end that you are continuing to apply what you learned. So you recognize that it's a work in progress. You're not saying you're miraculously cured. So anything that you can show in your own answer to this weakness question that demonstrates self-awareness and the maturity to ask for help is a huge plus. One main thing you want to avoid with this answer though is simply stating a weakness with no context or follow-up. And the other thing to avoid, which I have heard on more occasions than you might think, is to say that you have a weakness that is in direct opposition to the skill that's required in the role. So with this, make sure that before the interview, you really know the job description and have an answer prepared. You can use any of these free guides to do that. I'll link those in the description box below this video. And also make sure that your answer is not something like, I'm not good at public speaking, that's my weakness. But then the role you're interviewing for involves, a lot of presentations and cold calling or selling to people you've never met before, as that would be in direct opposition to the role. The next question is, what interests you about this job? An example answer is, I'm interested in this job because of the focus on development of technical skills. In my last role, I built a really strong foundational set of technical skills, and I feel this role will take me to the next level. But more importantly, most of the duties involve a process that allows me to connect with other members of the team and areas of the business. I would really look forward to that, as there were times when I wanted to experience more collaborative processes in my last position. I could also see that this company values its employees and makes a lot of effort to retain them, as there's a number of long service staff members. So this answer demonstrates that you've paid attention to what's in the role, either from the job description or the interviewer's explanation. I've used technical skills in this example, but you can use any set of skills you've gained, whether customer service, administration, or anything else. So here you've referenced a hard skill in the technical interest and also a soft skill here in the team working and collaboration side that interested you, as well as a fact on the company, which takes this answer over the top because it shows you've done your research before the interview. So in your own answer, if you can reference a couple of hard skills and a soft skill or two alongside the specifics on the company, you'll nail this answer. So the next question is, how do you evaluate success? The example answer is, I evaluate success in two parts. First is based on my ability to meet or exceed my goals. I set specific goals for myself, both short-term and long-term, and track my progress over time. The second part is to make sure that my goals are measurable. Doing this allows me to track my progress against deadlines and goalposts along the way, and allows me to celebrate small wins and measure success against incremental achievements, as opposed to one large achievement that could potentially take years. An example of a goal I set myself based on this method is to move into a more client-focused role within 3 years, which was one of the reasons I applied for this position. I set smaller short-term goals along the way. So year 1, I wanted to find a mentor in this area. In year 2, offer to take on more responsibilities to build more of a range of experience in client services. And year 3, invest in management training and personal development. This is a behavioral question. So it's about the interviewer understanding your perspective on things, in this case, success. So this could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe this role is quite demanding in delivering something specific, and they want to understand how you would manage the ups and downs. That could give an indicator of how likely you are to maintain your performance over time. This answer also shows that you're able to think about a wider picture than simply, I evaluate success, by doing something I set out to do. Not a bad answer. And although in essence, that's what you're explaining, this example answer is a lot more comprehensive and in-depth. And it includes an example. When answering this question in your interview, you must include an example for your answer to be exceptional. Simply explaining the theory of how without an example is a mediocre answer. Alternative questions to this might be, what does success look like to you? So prepare for this question to be asked in different ways. The next question is, how do you prioritize your work? An example answer to this is, I'm quite organized, so I use tools to keep myself organized. As well as taking regular notes, I book time in my calendar for tasks as well as meetings. I do this to ensure I can deliver on work I've promised to others. I'm used to being in a role that has a lot of moving parts with a wide variety of responsibilities, as well as new tasks that may come in throughout the day with varying levels of urgency and importance. As tasks come in, I reassess each one against what I've already planned to do for the day, measuring importance versus urgency. So for example, I once had a request come in an hour before the end of the day from a temp that needed a timesheet to be approved. I also had a report due for my manager that needed it for a leadership meeting on Monday morning. The report was very important, but the temp would not have been paid for the whole week had the timesheet not been approved by the end of that day. So I completed the approval process for her timesheet and completed the report early on Monday morning after checking with my manager. So this question is likely to be asked for a very busy role that requires a high tolerance for lots of tasks and the necessity to reprioritize on a regular basis. So because this answer was quite long, I only included part of the STAR method, which you may have been able to spot in the answer: the situation, the task, and the action. So your answer doesn't need to be this length, but the reason this answer is strong is because it shows not only your ability to prioritize, but also that you have an in-depth understanding of the difference between urgent and important. The next question is, how do you handle conflict at work? An example answer to this is, I once had to deal with a situation where two of my team members were disagreeing about a new process they needed to put in place so that managers could order equipment for new starters on their team. My goal was to find a solution that would allow both team members to feel as though they had been heard and had still been able to contribute to the process. I took action by sitting down with each team member individually to hear their idea. Then I brought the team members together and facilitated a discussion until they were able to come to an agreement, which incorporated a little of both of their ideas. As a result of the discussion, the team were able to implement a new, smoother process, and both team members felt satisfied with the outcome. So this is another question I have a strong alternative answer to in my situational questions and answers video that I mentioned earlier, and you can check that video out in the description box below this video. The next question is, describe a difficult work situation and what you did to overcome it. An example answer is, last year I was assigned to lead a team on a new project. One of the team members was very resistant to my authority from the start. They would constantly question my decisions and were always looking for ways to undermine my authority. I tried to be patient with them at first, but soon it became clear that this person was not going to change their attitude or behavior. I knew that if I didn't do something, the situation was going to escalate and it would ultimately impact the quality of our work. I decided to sit down with them and talk about the problem. I explained that their attitude was negatively impacting the team and that I needed them to cooperate in order to make the project a success. They didn't like what I had to say, but eventually they agreed to try and work on being more cooperative. Over the next few weeks, I could see a change in their behavior. They were still challenging me at times, but in a more constructive way. As a result of our discussion, we were able to develop a better working relationship, and the project ended up being a success. Now, I know I used a conflict scenario here. A conflict can be considered a difficult situation, but in your own answer, you can also use as an example a mistake that you made, a miscalculation, working with a difficult or highly complex process or person, an out-of-date system that makes your job slower and more difficult, or anything that causes you difficulty. By now, you should be very well versed in the STAR method, so you can clearly see it here in the answer. The strongest part of this answer was the boldness and confidence in dealing with this person head on and sharing honest feedback. But it also shows that you sat down with this person, taking them away from a public place, which shows empathy and emotional awareness of the different ways that the conversation could develop. Also, it highlights that your solution was communication-based, and that's normally a great aspect to include in any conflict-based answer. The next question is, what is your greatest achievement? Without a doubt, my greatest achievement was completing my master's degree while working full-time. It was particularly difficult because I had to take care of my elderly parents, so there were a lot of pressures on my time. There were many times when I wanted to give up, but I'm proud that I was able to see it through. I think it shows that I'm dedicated and resilient, two qualities that are essential in any successful employee. Plus, it's given me the confidence to know that I can handle anything that comes my way. For all these reasons, finishing my master's degree is definitely my greatest achievement. If you haven't already, like, comment and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a video. So this is a great answer. It's bold and confident, and it's great if you don't have work experience. It demonstrates resilience, persistence, and the fact that you are a starter finisher. A lot of people pause or abandon studying for various reasons. A master's degree is a colossal achievement. If you are giving an answer like this, particularly if you're saying that these are the qualities that are essential in a successful employee, this is a bold statement. You need to deliver it with confidence. You can't waver or sound unsure when you're sharing a strong answer like this. Now, if you don't have a master's degree, you can still use any form of studying or personal hobby that you're involved in. So let's say that you volunteer once a week and you've been doing that for years, and you're helping people less fortunate. That is something to be proud of. That is an achievement. So if you do have work experience, try to pre-prepare examples that include specifics, such as specific projects, and include numbers. A couple of examples are things like hiring and training a team of 10 administrators on a complex new process you created, or implementing a new approval process or policy that resulted in a 20% saving for the company. That's an example of specific numbers. So the next question is, how do you keep yourself organized at work? Now, when you're answering this question, it helps to have multiple examples to draw from, so you can take the best elements of each answer and use them in your interview. So I also answered this question in my free interview answers guide that I mentioned earlier. So there's a strong alternative example answer to this question in that guide, and you can get that for free below in the description. I also answer a similar question in my top 20 situational interview questions and answers video that I mentioned earlier. So you can use those resources to draw on alternative example answers. Now, I'm not going to use the STAR method in my example answer here, but if you wanted to, you can incorporate the STAR technique into your answer. For example, you can talk about a situation where being organized helped you to handle a workload more efficiently. For example, I was working on a specific project. I knew the workload would be high. I made a plan, broke down each step into manageable pieces, and planned ahead. The result was X. Now, the answer can still be powerful without the STAR method if you include specifics in your own answer. So make sure that you reference specific tools relevant to the industry you work in or want to work in. That would help you stay organized. So here's the example answer. I stay organized in 3 main ways. First, I dedicate time each week to simplifying and streamlining how I work. For example, I realized one week that I was spreading out tasks that were similar in nature throughout the day, and that was taking up more time than necessary. So these were tasks like scheduling meetings and arranging interviews, very similar. I now batch my work so I complete similar tasks together to save time. I'm able to come up with these ideas because I allocate time each week to review my work and look at what I can improve. The second way is I use supporting tools to keep track of tasks, whether one-off tasks, daily tasks, weekly or monthly. I use my calendar, reminders, templates, and scheduling tools such as Find Time in Outlook, and note-taking tools such as Evernote, so I don't miss pop-up one-off tasks while I'm on the go. The third way is by tracking. I keep a track of changes across the function that I support as an assistant to keep up to date on requests and tasks that come up regularly. I'm looking forward to answering your questions in the comments. Do let me know if this video was helpful, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.